unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome in. Canada's got a new old Prime Minister of sorts. Hope Election Day treated you well. There's so much to cover tonight. We'll start with something surprising from your nose. As it turns, friendship might be nose first, and not heart first. That's right, how someone smells to you has a large bearing on who you're drawn to as a friend. And I'm not just talking BO, it's everything like the smell of cat pee or your perfume. Don't believe me? We'll cover the science behind that in about 10 minutes. Afterwards, the Voynich Manuscript, a strange document written 700-800 years ago with indecipherable text and otherworldly drawings, plants that never existed, biological drawings that only make a little bit of sense. Some people call it the most mysterious book in the world. Why is it that no one can read it and no computer can crack the code? And what secrets could it contain? Was it written by a time traveler on mushrooms? Or did ancient peoples know more than we thought we did? The Voynich Manuscript, we'll discuss that halfway through the hour. Let's dive into the show, shall we? So here's a headline I did not expect to see outside of a satirical novel. They're everywhere. Workers warn of rat infestation at nuclear plant. Yes, the United Kingdom's newest nuclear power station, Hinkley Point C, has rats. And not just a couple here and there, but a full-blown rodent residency. The plot of Ninja Turtles times a billion, probably. And it's all in beautiful Somerset, England. Beautiful for now, because, well, nuclear disasters and all. One plant worker said of the rats, and I quote, "They're just sat there, looking at you." And you know he's British because he said sat instead of sitting. Anyway, sitting there just looking at you, coincidentally, is how most of my relationships have ended. Now, it started near the canteen of the plant, because of course it did. If you're a rat choosing between irradiated rebar and a half-eaten meat pie, you're going to pick the meat pie. Most rats have taste. But now they're spread across the whole nuclear plant construction site like unpaid invoices. Now, the French company behind this nuclear construction project said this kind of infestation is common on large construction sites. Yes, your classic nuclear and vermin pairing, totally normal, like champagne and Cheetos. Or in construction terms, as common as asbestos and denial. To be fair though, this nuclear plant construction site has been a disaster even without these rats. It's years behind schedule, billions over budget, and its investors have pulled out, presumably after realizing they could get better return by lighting their money on fire and selling the ashes. On the job site, workers have been protesting everything from these rats to the working conditions to the fingerprint scanners. Yes, they reportedly had only 5 fingerprint scanners to admit 13,000 employees. That is a biblical level of under-resourcing a large staffed project. The company running the site says they've brought in pest control and are working with union partners to improve conditions, which is corporate speak for we're ignoring you, but politely. Meanwhile, the rats are probably unionizing, and I hear their pension plan is phenomenal. Anyway, when this plant is finally finished, possibly sometime after the climate has collapsed and the property it sits on is beachside, it's supposed to power 6 million homes. That's assuming the rats haven't chewed through the cables, started a religion, mutated, formed a society, and declared the plant's canteen their sovereign homeland. So to sum up, in the UK, they've got a nuclear facility built by a financially drowning company, crawling with rats, possibly guarded by one overworked intern with a broom. I don't know what this is, but that is an energy policy. It may well just be performance art about the British Empire's decline. And if this is the future of clean energy in Western society, maybe we just deserve the apocalypse. If you woke up this morning and thought, what fresh hell has Connecticut brought for us? I've got the answer for you. And it's fart spray. Actual fart spray. You know, like a 12-year-old boy's cologne. That gag gift you can buy that smells like not so good, that you can spray around, wielding it like a horrible weapon. Anyway, a carnival in a small town in Connecticut turned into an alarming running of the bulls type situation, but with more smelly spray and fewer bulls, like no bulls. A group of kids armed with something police are calling flatulence spray, which sounds like a formal name for something invented in a lab by Satan and a 7th grader. The group of kids decided to unleash chaos near the carnival exit. People started screaming and running from the beach like someone yelled "shark" or "they're out of funnel cake," but no, it was just an invisible cloud of synthetic gas so potent it breaks the social contract. Naturally, social media lit up like your aunt after 2 glasses of wine and a conspiracy theory. Rumors flew around like weapons, violence, and who knows what else, but then local police stepped in with a statement that basically said, "Calm down, it's just weaponized adolescents." And smelly at that. It would seem that despite people running around in panic, there was no injuries, no altercations, just one incredibly effective prank with the collective trauma of everyone's noses. As police were already at the event keeping watch, presumably somewhere in that chaos, an officer had to Google fart spray toxicity and then maybe reassess their career choice. The local police department said they were investigating and thanked the public for their patience, understanding, and presumably their Febreze. So what makes local news in Connecticut so exciting that I feel the need to cover it? Well, any headline containing the phrase fart spray is a headline for me. So to the kids behind this, next time, maybe just throw water balloons. Or if you must clear a crowd, try math homework. It's just as effective and smells better. Unless you're bad at math, and then it all depends on what your tears smell like. Ever make a mistake that's so big, even your GPS starts judging you? Because that's exactly what happened to one man in England, a 36-year-old who basically pulled off the world's saddest magic trick. He made his stolen car disappear, well, at least thieves did. Then he made it reappear in his own driveway after spending $25,000. Here's what happened. The man wakes up one morning to find his beloved black Honda Civic, a 2016 Type R, which in midlife crisis terms is right between I bought a motorcycle and I bought a girlfriend half my age. He finds it totally gone. Naturally, he calls the police. The car's stolen. He calls his insurance. And after a while, he does what any heartbroken man in his situation might do. He starts online car shopping at 2 a.m. while aggressively eating cereal out of the box. A few days later, in a town over or two, he finds a car that's identical. The same color, the same year, the same overly obnoxious exhaust system, the kind of exhaust that says divorced twice, owns a punching bag. So he buys the car immediately from what he describes as a reputable garage, which for the record seems to be British for a guy with a broom and a LinkedIn page. Anyway, the man in question drives his shiny new used car home. But things start feeling a little familiar. There's a random tent peg in the back seat he recognizes. Christmas tree needles wedged in an all too familiar place in the car's carpet. And of course, candy bar wrappers stuffed casually in the console. It was less new car smell and more sad bachelor in parking lot vibes. Still, he ignores all that until he plugs an address into the GPS and it auto fills in his parents' house address. That's when it hits him. He hadn't just replaced his stolen car, he had re-bought it. Full price, no family discount, not even a free candy bar, because there was wrappers, but no actual candy bar. He said he almost crashed in shock when he realized, which would have been really the cherry on a disaster sundae. Imagine explaining that to an insurance company. Yeah, so I bought my own stolen car and totaled it because it knew too much. So he rushes the car to a Honda dealership where a technician literally pulls out the physical key, pops the door open and goes, "Yeah, mate, it's yours." You could still see where the thieves had rubbed off the VIN number and slapped a new one on like they were decorating a kid's lunchbox. Side note, I know VIN stands for vehicle identification number, so saying VIN number is redundant, but, it's common to say that. I digress. The cops couldn't believe it either. They told him it was one of the best clone jobs they'd ever seen, which feels like a backhanded compliment, like if someone broke into your house, stole your couch, and the police show up to the thieves' home and say, "Wow, they really made it pop in their living room." In the end, though, the man is just hoping to get his money back. I'm hoping he checks the back seat next time he buys something. Because if you buy a car and it comes with your own lost umbrella, that's not a bargain. That's just you re-buying your car. Ever wondered if your nose plays a big part in who you make friends with? Well, it does, and we'll cover it on the other side of the break. I'm David Cooper, and this is The Last Show.
last show with David Cooper, where intimacy meets insanity.
Friendship might be nose first, not heart first. I'll explain here with a psychologist who studied how our sense of smell, even through perfume and deodorant, can predict who we're drawn to as friends. Her name is Dr. Jessica Gaby. She's a psychology professor at Middle Tennessee State University. We're here to talk smells, even though we're talking virtually, so you don't know if I stink, Jess, do you?
I don't.
Should I shower more is the question, or could my pheromones actually do me a great service if I stink?
Yeah, so I'm going to caution you from using the word pheromones because it's a very specific scientific term.
Okay.
But when we talk about like olfactory communication in humans, we typically say social odors. Yeah, so pheromones was coined as like the initial pheromone that was isolated is this pheromone called bomacol, which when a male moth smells this pheromone, every male moth in the entire species will like fly to, it's emitted by females, so he will fly to the female and try to mate with her. It happens like every time without fail. That's like a pheromone, and humans are way too messy for that. To answer your question, I do not think you should shower more. I think the amount that you shower says something about you, and that
Not good things. Okay.
No, not it. What it says about you is something that some people appreciate and some people won't.
Fair enough. And you're being very diplomatic right now, which I want to ask my first real question here. What exactly is diplomatic odor? As I started rifling through your paper that says we make friends possibly based on smell, that phrase came up. Do you want to maybe define that for me?
Yeah. So diplomatic odor is, I think of it as like the way that you choose to present yourself to the world, right? So a lot of the early study, a lot of like the bulk of studies on human body odor ask people who are donating body odor to stop wearing deodorant, stop wearing perfume, wash all their clothes in unscented detergent. You have to change your diet. You have to change your lifestyle. You can't smoke. You can't drink. You can't sleep in the bed with your partner or your pets, right? All of these things to eliminate all of the possible outside sources of body odor. And then what they do is they collect just armpit sweat and they have people come into the lab and smell that.
And that's not what you smell like. You're a collection of all those other things.
Exactly. That is not what you smell like. So in real life, when you meet somebody, right, you have like showered or not, you're wearing deodorant, maybe an antiperspirant, which actually binds to the glands that we think secrete a lot of these social chemicals and prevents them from being secreted in the first place. So you have maybe, cologne and perfume, your hygiene products all have a smell. Like you have to work really hard to have no scent when you go out into the world, right? Everything, your toothpaste, your shampoo, your conditioner, all of these things have like fragrances in them. So, and there are all these added things, right? Like maybe what you eat, are you a cat person or a dog person? Like all of these little things that kind of go into the way that you smell in the real world. And so you could argue that people kind of like, I might have like a different perfume that I wear for a date night than if I'm going on an interview. But in general, I think people exist in this kind of like odor space, right? I'm a person who hates, personally, I hate like powdery fragrances or like floral stuff. So like, I'm never going to smell like that, even if it is a date or if it is I don't wear a lot of fragrance anyway, but if it is if I'm going to wear one, it's never going to be a floral one. And so I think everybody kind of creates this odor space in which they tend to exist. And that is what they take with them when they go out into the world. I call it like your odor ambassador, right?
Yeah. Whenever I smell Chanel No. 5, I can't, my mother is there with me, no matter who you are. You could be the most beautiful woman in the world. You could be a man. You could be whoever's wearing Chanel No. 5. There's my mom standing there next to you. It doesn't stop. I can't get the image out of my head when I smell that.
And so it's this whole compilation of things. And, even if we think, oh, like I don't really choose the fragrance of my detergent, but you do, there are ones that you would never buy, right? Even if it's passive, you're like, this set is okay and this set is not okay.
Yeah.
So I think all of those pieces kind of combine to say something about you. One of the reasons that I started doing this work is because I was really interested in whether or not in kind of that piece of like unique human preference that is built on both, we know from research, right, both genetics and experience. So depending on, for instance, like where you grow up, the set of fragrances that you might think of as like acceptable human odors are going to be different, right? So it's not just what I like and what I don't like, but it's also like what things are available to me in this odor space. And then when you go into the world and you meet somebody from like a different culture or a different background, they have to decide, are you safe or are you not safe?
And so those subtle cues that we're getting through our nose can really define who we decide to try to be friends with or not.
Yeah, I think it has. It's interesting. I've seen a lot of the coverage on this work being like, oh, the sense of smell is more important than all of these other things. And I wouldn't say that it's more important. I would say that it's complementary information, right? That's what our research shows. And that's really like the way that smell works. Really, you don't attend to smell that much in your life. Your sense of smell is kind of like physiologically wired for you to ignore it. Unless something violates your expectations or it's particularly pertinent, right? Did you smell smoke? Is your house on fire? Is there pizza somewhere and you really want a snack?
It's why a plumber or a sanitation worker or a garbage collector, it's why they can just tolerate the smell and not notice it, having been around it a lot.
Your sense of smell adapts very quickly, right? So you walk into an environment, you're like, is everything cool here? If yes, then we just stop paying attention. And so when you meet a new person, I think as long as they're kind of like in the general space of like what you think is socially acceptable, you're going to be like, okay, cool, we can proceed. But if you meet them and you're like, either direction, right? You're like, wow, this guy has like really a lot of body odor. Or you're like, wow, this cologne is amazing. Then you're going to be thinking about it as like a particular signaler. But as long as they fall within the category of like, pretty okay, I don't think we're really attending to it so much. And so I think the signals that we're getting from this social communication are kind of like adding to all of the other pieces, right? That's what we were looking at. It doesn't matter the way that you look. Do these multimodal. So when we say multimodal, we mean a bunch of different types of sensory input, right? The way that you sound, what you said, your nonverbal behavior, what do you look like? What clothes are you wearing? Do you wear glasses? All of these pieces, right? And then we have this undercurrent of like, what information am I also able to glean from the way that you smell?
It's really interesting. So what are you finding? Are you finding that it's like an important part of friend making smell, or is it just one of...
No, we definitely do, right? So basically in this study, we wanted to look at body odor, but we know that humans are strongly visual. And so we also wanted to look at sort of as like, you can't ignore it, right? Also, how does visual information relate? So we brought in a bunch of self-rated heterosexual women, and we asked them we took a photo of them, and we asked them to wear a t-shirt for like 12 hours. And then we brought them in to do what we call speed friending, which is like speed dating. But because it's all like heterosexual women, it was just like, would you like to make some friends? And we told these people, at the end, you'll be able to say whether or not you want to exchange contact information. And then we'll give them your contact information and you can like try to meet up. We didn't actually do that. But we wanted this, to be as like honest as possible, right? And we advertised it as speed friending and not as like, come do a weird body odor study. But anyway, so we had people, so before they met any of these women, they would look at their photos and they would make really quick, really short, 100 milliseconds, which is like the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. They get this really quick flash of a face and then they have to make a judgment. And they made 4 different judgments. I would like to hang out with this person. I'd like to share an activity with them. This is someone I would like to get to know. And then there was I would not like to hang out with this person. Anyway, and so they made the judgments about their faces. We had them smell the t-shirts. We had them meet in real life. And then we had them smell the t-shirts again. And they made those judgments every time. And so we were able to look at the impact of visual perception, which, as we expected, is strong. But we also saw that the way that they perceive that person based on their smell strongly predicted how much they would like them in real life. And then the really cool part about it is whether or not based on the quality of a meeting, did I really like you when I met you in real life? When they smelled the t-shirts a second time, we also saw shifts in those judgments that reflected the quality of that in-person interaction, right? And so I think this is the coolest part, because when you have an interaction with somebody, a real life interaction where you can actually smell them, right? You're always going to be in the presence of their body odor. And so over time, you get to learn that this person's body odor predicts some kind of outcome, right? You like them, so we're going to probably have a good experience. When I see you and we hug hello or whatever, and we get this whiff of you and be like, oh, great, we're going to have a nice time together.
Nice.
And so we do see that it predicts how we it predicts whether or not we're going to like an individual, and then it's influenced by our interactions with them.
Jess, what a pleasure it was. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for going over your study, and I will smell you later.
Sounds good.
Dr. Jessica Gaby is a psychology professor at Middle Tennessee State University. Up next, an ancient manuscript was discovered. It's from the early 1400s. No one can decode it, and in it, strange diagrams of biology that doesn't exist, of plants that seem otherworldly. Where did it come from? Why can't we decode it? And what secrets could it contain? That we'll cover after the break. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
Taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Questions will be questioned. Answers will be answered as we talk about an ancient manuscript. It's been called the most mysterious book in the world, full of strange plants, naked ladies in tubs, and it's all in a language no one can decode. If you've ever looked at a book and thought, this looks like it was written by a time traveler on mushrooms, then congratulations, you've already seen the Voynich manuscript. But if you haven't, we're going to discuss it with an expert in weird mysteries. It's Noah versus the unknown. I am joined by Noah Cappe to discuss all things Voynich manuscript. Noah, hello. I'll stop talking.
Hey, buddy. For a moment there, when you were kicking that intro, I thought maybe you were talking about the Maxim Top 100. It was like strange things, women in tubs. What is this? But no, this is a very different book. This is a very different book.
Some people have said it's a hoax. Some people have said it's a secret code. Some people have said it's something far weirder. For those who've never seen this strange book, just high level, the Voynich manuscript, it appears almost out of nowhere, containing bizarre diagrams.
Yeah, I mean, this is 240 pages filled with a language that, as everything in this book, toes this wild line of it. We can't seem to make it make sense, but at the same time, we can't make it not I can't make the sentence make sense, and I think that says more than anything, really.
I think it describes the manuscript well, actually. Your inability to describe it actually describes it perfectly.
The writing in this thing, everybody from every school, from every walk of life, and now even AI has gotten in on trying to crack this writing, but they can't do it. Nobody has been able to decipher this language, but yet they keep feeling like there is something there because there is a consistency in these, let's say, letters that they're using. That's one component of the very unusual Voynich manuscript. The other part, obviously, being the illustrations.
The diagrams are extremely strange. It's like someone took a bunch of acid or smoked a bunch of peyote and started, they got insights from an otherworldly place and they started drawing them.
Yeah, I mean, let's obviously quickly break this thing down so that everybody at home can ride this ride with us. 1912, this guy Wilfrid Voynich, and I'm going to say his name different every time. He's a Polish book dealer. He finds this book. It's like at a Jesuit, I don't
Church,
know,
library, whatever.
Yeah, so some kind of place where there's these books. He finds this thing. They don't know how they got it. They don't know where it came from. What we do know after, carbon dating and all of that, the pages are made out of animal skin, so we can get a really good reading on that. And that is giving us a pretty small window, all things considered, that this book was made between 1404 and 1438. That's what the pages seem to imply. And again, the illustrations of the people in this, the clothes that they're wearing, the hairstyles, it does fall into that medieval time period. So there is a dot that kind of connects there. But that's really the last part of this story that makes any sense. From there, it just gets weird.
The characters look almost like Latin, like English characters, almost like G's, O's, L's, A's, but then they kind of diverge a little. It's like an uncanny valley between a foreign language and a language you've already seen if you speak English.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that the writing, that the text has some kind of backing in Arabic or in Hebrew because of, the shapes of the letters. But nobody can crack this thing. And everyone's like, oh, well, now AI's here. We'll knock this thing out. What was the stat the other day? It was like a calculation that would have taken 280 billion years just got done in like a day and a half or something. It's like one of the new computers that's quantum computing at such a level that it's whatever, but we still can't decipher this writing, which makes me think, is it gibberish? Is it just creative writing? Is this somebody who is eating magical plants and just jotting down their wacky thoughts?
Is it the scribblings and drawings of a madman who the real discovery here is not in the ancient language, not in the diagrams. It's that LSD was discovered earlier than we thought.
I always say, though, for 240 pages of hand-drawn images, like elaborate, quirky, crazy images, and the writings and all of it, it is a very big undertaking for a Well, I guess, look, today somebody writes Harry Potter, so maybe this is just like a creative writing story.
The Voynich Manuscript. Medieval medical guide, alien communication, an elaborate hoax, written on old paper, but by someone more recent. What's your favorite pet theory on this one?
Well, I mean, I like to always try to like trace it back as far as I can to find like a starting point so that I can get a sense of like what time period. A lot of the time when we're talking about ancient sites and things like that, it does line up with like a cataclysmic event or something where it kind of like starts to really connect pieces. To me, it's about where can we connect this book back to from Wilfred buying it? And the main theory, or the only other kind of idea that we have, is that at one point, somebody by the name of Emperor Rudolph II of the Holy Roman Empire was in possession of this book, and that he believed that the famous alchemist Roger Bacon, who is like one of what as a real person and is a famous mathematician and alchemist for being a very kind of trend-setting, a very ahead of his time in his thoughts and outlooks on that world, that he was actually the person who wrote it. Now, he lived in the 13th century, in the 1200s. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there. But that to me kind of says, okay, look, we are sitting somewhere in that window. I don't know, man. I mean, look, let's talk about these sections. You mentioned it. The book is broken down into very specific sections. There's
botany, there's strange plants. There seems to be drawings of naked, half-pregnant women. Tell me about these sections.
Yeah, there seem to be 4 main sections and then one kind of like, and I'm going to say what the little bonus section is because it's so unexpected. The 4 sections for the most part are botanical, astronomical, biological, and pharmaceutical, with an asterisk 5th section being recipes.
Delicious.
Just, you know what I mean? Sprinkle in a couple little recipes in there. So these 4 sections kind of appear in almost chapters and connect throughout. But starting with botanical, very strange plants, like plants that we don't see, but again, that feel like you could connect it to something. Is this from a time? Is this plants that don't exist anymore? Are these plants that at one point were here? Oozing, star-shaped leaves, very odd imagery.
Almost alien-like curves to root vegetables. Like they look like alien fingers, like from the movie Alien. And they're sort of half connected page to page. And then all these characters below them, almost like a botanical description of them, almost like you'd see in a book from that era describing the taxonomy of plants and agriculture. And yet it's a little off. It's a little creepy.
And that is the thing. For when people see it, it's like it reeks of realism in the sense of the images, and when especially the botanical sections, it looks like there is clearly something being shared, written, whatever it is. Then you get into the astronomical section, which to me is always a very kind of eye-opening glimpse into what's going on. What is the understanding of the stars? How is it more than we thought they understood at this time? This thing is full of star maps. It's got like centerfold, like fold out pages of cosmic diagrams. And again, naked women holding stars and sitting in more bathtubs and just like this unbelievably odd connection to some star systems, but at the same time, it doesn't line up with what we know.
There's also like spirals, and it doesn't look quite like a spiral galaxy, but it almost does. And I know they didn't have telescopes back then to actually see any kind of spiral galaxies. So very strange stuff.
It reels you back in again, just when you're like, okay, this is wacky. Something kind of says, but this feels like this looks like this animal. But then on the next page, there's a dragon. It's like, what's going on here? The biological section is literally soft porn. I mean, it's just naked women, bathtubs all over the place.
That's just the main plot of that old show, Game of Thrones. I thought the whole plot of that show was naked women getting out of the bath. That is the whole plot.
It's based, if you look in the fine print at the end of every episode, it says based on the Voynich Manuscript.
We're here with Noah Cappe discussing the Voynich Manuscript. We'll talk botany, recipes, and what was that last one?
Naked women in bathtubs.
Naked women in bathtubs. Anatomy? Is that the right way to put it?
I don't know. Every page just has hundreds of women in weird bathtubs.
I mean, we'll discuss more of that after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the alien invasion
Naked ladies in bathtubs, strange plants that have never been seen, nymphs that are deformed somehow, all contained within the Voynich Manuscript, a document found that's dated back to around the 13th, 14th, 15th century. I was roughly right there. With a language that even with computers we can't decode. We are here discussing this with Noah Cappe. It's Noah versus the unknown. Noah, what a pleasure it was. It is.
Always. It was the first half. The second half, we're guessing it's going to be again. I'm just excited for somebody to scoop the movie rights up on this manuscript and, eat some mushrooms and go to the movies.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen a movie with a plot where like a book that's undecodable. I guess that's just the Da Vinci Code, isn't it? We've seen it.
Oh, man.
It's been called the most mysterious manuscript in the world. Is that earned, or is this just PR hype?
I mean, it is definitely up there. If it isn't on the top, it's on the podium. I mean, this thing is getting a medal. This is top 3 for sure. It's what we've been talking about. It just seems to always feel like, okay, this is wacky, zany, but then something connects a dot that makes you feel like there is something here. We're joking around about this, the third section here, the biological section, and all these images of naked people. And, but what's interesting is it isn't just this silly collection of naked bodies and whatever. It seems to be, again, in a weird way, connected to almost like the reproductive system. It's like these tubs have tubes and the people are flowing through tubes and things are shaped like uteruses. And I mean, it's just like it, again, is this odd collaboration mishmash of all of these different things in one place. Is it reproductive based, these images? I don't know.
And there's fish that kind of look like anglerfish, but don't.
Yeah, there's an animal. There's a Netflix documentary right now that everybody's talking about what are they called? Pangolins or something?
Pangolins, yeah.
Yeah. So the pangolin, it's like, no, the guy in the documentary is talking about how he is like never seen one in the wild, that it's just like people really have only seen them in sanctuaries and they're traded in, horrible exotic, it doesn't matter. But the point is this: in this book is a drawing of, man, it looks exactly like a pangolin. It looks exactly like one. And it's just like, what are the chances? How did you see this thing, whatever? But then again, on the next page, you've got like a dragon type of creature. But this is all kind of like falls into this animal component that's also sprinkled throughout as it leads into our final section before recipes, which is, of course, pharmaceutical. And now here is the alchemist angle, right? Here is where things are really the main belief is that the classic medieval time period, the Merlins, the age of magic and lost alchemy, it's this. This book reeks of containers and apothecary jars and just like weird pharmaceutical based imagery.
It's strange. I'm looking at these photos. I don't even know what to say.
It's hard to describe because again, they're so elaborate. They're so specific, but yet they seem so kind of out there.
And the various steps of these potions, these alchemical processes.
Yeah, it's broken down. It's like
broken down and labeled with this language that even computers can't decode. So yeah. I lean to like hoax, some guy, it's art project, the Andy Warhol of his time, just like abstract modern art. That's my interpretation as a skeptic. I don't know what other interpretation has good evidence. Like, what would be your interpretation?
I mean, I think it is one of those, until we can crack the language, until somebody can figure out one way or another. Is there something hidden in these letters? If there is, what is it that's going to help us, solve this thing? And if we can officially put the gavel down on saying, look, this is gibberish. There's no cracking this code because there's no code to crack. Then that I think just solves it on the other side. And that is an elaborate, creative story writing art project. But again, man, 240 pages of animal skin, dried, taut, binded, book, but good for whoever did that.
I wonder if there's some code in there that like the photos are misdirect and there's like, it's like some secret, like this is where the gold's buried or this is where the royal tomb with the royal jewels is, like you said there was some association with an ancient royal figure. So I wonder if it's something like that. Like it's just an uncracked cipher and
for sure.
The images are just meant to throw people off and confuse them.
I mean, look, I know there was a period of time where a book called The Bible Code was having a very big moment where everybody was buzzing and talking about the Bible Code. The flip side of it was, well, people said, look, if you run enough patterns through any book, in Moby Dick, we can find the prediction of the assassination of JFK or whatever it is. But this is one of the theories that this book is riddled with a hidden code. That just needs to be cracked to reveal whatever it's hiding. Recipes. That's what it's hiding.
Yes.
Who cares about magic potions?
Yeah, I want to know what these ancients were making that was so delicious.
It makes the book. I got to eat it.
What I'm trying to find pictures of these recipes. There's just some of these ingredients seem like.
Well, that's the problem. Like everything with this book, the recipe page and sections are equally as frustrating and mind-boggling because the ingredients, you're like, that kind of looks like a mushroom, but that also kind of looks like a star. It's like a little stardust, a couple of mushrooms.
A layer cake with some feathers on the bottom.
Yeah. Voynich cheese, by the way, is the language that they've dubbed this writing, based on, of course, Wilfred Voynich, the man who bought the book in 1912. Voynich cheese. So is it real? Is it not? We don't know, but it's worth a check. Go online and just type it in. Look at the images. It's a weird one.
I hope I don't know, computer scientists, I hope they crack at least some of it. That's my hope. In the next few years using ChatGPT, whatever, they're gonna get through it.
If there's a code there, we've got the technology heading in the right direction that it's going to find it.
Noah, we've talked about aliens. We've talked about ancients. Well, I haven't talked to you about the New Jersey drones from like a few months ago. Everyone was talking about them and now everyone's shut up about them. Have they just gone away? Has the news just moved on? Were they never there to begin with? What's going on with the drones?
I mean, that's a weird one. And this is like a section in itself because you get into all the different theories of there was at one point talking about that they were government drones that were scanning for, nuclear related elements that were being put in through the port in New Jersey. And they didn't want people to know from a scare attack, like, freaking out and all of that. But at the same time, you've got Trump before he was elected saying, this is ridiculous. Why isn't there transparency? Then he gets in there. They say, oh, yeah, we talked to the FAA and it was them and all good, close the book. And a few weeks later, the FAA goes, we never said that. That wasn't us.
But by then the news cycle had moved on, so nobody cares anymore?
But the news cycle has moved on. There's a clip right now of somebody in Missouri, I think, that apparently took footage of one of these drones. If it's real, if it is, it's very odd. There's the time that they were up there, the footage of what was going on. That was a weird story. I don't know how that didn't get more attention.
I don't know. It must have been a slow news week. I'm surprised it got as much attention as it did. So the fact that the attention then petered out, for me, makes sense.
But that's the brilliant part of us, right? You will always lean a little bit to the side where you hear that story and you go, yeah, it's probably just there's an explanation. And then I lean to the side of, holy moly, it's happening.
But what's happening?
The moment of irrefutable evidence. In my mind, I'm like, look, there's no way we're alone. I don't want to get into if it's interdimensional, if they're coming out of the ocean or they're coming from another galaxy. I don't know. I don't care. But I know this. There's no way we're alone in 4 billion light years of space out there.
Yeah, but have they come and visited us? That's the question. And I think the answer to that question is no.
Well, to me, the answer is 7,000 years of writings and human accomplishments that seem to kind of like point the needle in another direction. One day there's going to be a piece of evidence that we're just not going to be able to argue anymore. And that day, my friend, I'll have my moment.
And they'll have come back to Earth to say, can I have my manuscript back? Noah, thank you so much for your time, man.
Well done, man. That's how you wrap up a segment.
Noah Cappe, check him out. Noah versus the Unknown. After the break, jobs you and I could never do. We'll talk to a fire eater. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. Swallow That Fire, up next.
Prepare to have your mind blown as we delve into the complexities of relationships, explore the cutting edge of science, and celebrate the bizarre and beautiful absurdity of the world around us. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Jobs you or I could probably never do. A new installment. Today we'll talk fire eating, fire swallowing, and being a performer. I'm here with Maggie Haze, a fire performer in Toronto, Canada. Maggie, I'm excited to swallow fire with you, which is not what we're going to do, but I don't know why I said that. Maggie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, let's like take 100 steps back. I have been to things where people swallow fire. I've been to things where people spin fire. I know another fire person. They're a spinner. Her arms are covered in scars from being burned. Walk me through what you do.
So I'm a performer and also a choreographer. So I perform with fire using lots of different props and then incorporating also dance and theater into it as well to create kind of like a, interesting, mystical, fun, dangerous art form.
And do you swallow the fire and
I sure do.
Is it like, do you spit it out or do you get the flammable liquid and go, and then there's a big poof of it?
Okay. So it's funny for me to say that's where I draw the line.
Whoa.
I have a line and it's fire breathing. So I don't breathe fire, but I do eat it. So swallow it and manipulate the flame with vapor tricks. So it can look like there's little puffs of fire coming out of my mouth at certain points, but it's not the actual let's drink the lamp oil and spit it out.
Why do we draw the line there? Because it can backtrack down your esophagus? Why is that one so dangerous?
Yeah, you'd need a really good dentist, which I do have a really good dentist.
Who can afford one these days?
Exactly. No, it's just there's a lot of added sort of dangers and things like that. And I find for myself, I like more of the dancing with the flame and the sort of seductive quality that fire eating has versus the fire breathing. So that's for somebody else to do.
How does one decide in their life that this is a career path they want to take? For example, I found radio by accident. Someone just invited me on a show to promote something. Who cares? Did you fall into it or was this something you always wanted to do?
I completely fell into it. Sometimes I joke to say that my parents always told me I light up a room, so I took it literally. But that is not true. Yeah, I actually, an ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend was a fire spinner, and I met her. And she was part of a group of gals taking a big show to Burning Man, doing a conclave, and they needed more performers. And they were like, "You want to learn how to spin fire?" And I was like, "Okay." And then kind of kicked off from there. One of those gals owns a company called North Fire Circus, and she invited me to start performing professionally, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But I didn't even know it existed at a certain point.
And it's one of those things when I see these schmucks on motorcycles jumping that huge 100-foot jump, it's there was a first time you tried it when you didn't know what you were doing, and yet you did it and it was dangerous. I feel like it's the same thing with fire spinning. You can only practice so much until you're there for the first time with flames in your hand. Do you burn yourself that first time? How do you go from practice to actually doing it? That's to me the scariest moment.
Yeah, for sure. I did that really quickly. My first fire prop was a hula hoop, and I started spinning a hula hoop in June. And then in July, I was like, oh, okay, let's light it on fire. Just because that's who I am. But yeah, you do have to practice not on fire quite a bit. I think the most surprising thing to me the first time lighting the hula hoop on fire and practicing with it was the sound. It's really loud. It kind of whooshes around you.
Huh.
But then it kind of, I don't know. You need a lot of sustained contact with flame to get a burn. So it kind of licks across you when you're keeping it in motion. So you just got to keep it moving and kind of understand how it works.
Sort of like putting your hand over a candle for a second. It's okay, even if you're really close to the flame. But if you leave it there,
Exactly.
You're going to get burnt. I had a misconception walking in. I thought spitting it out would be the easiest thing. Are there things that people get wrong about fire eating or things that people think are part of your job that just aren't?
That is a good question. I think people think perhaps that it
it is obviously dangerous and you need to take things seriously. But once you know the technique, it's like, it doesn't hurt. It's not hard. It's just having respect for what you're working with, I guess. Yeah.
Is there a particular type of fuel that you use? Like, is it kerosene, like a gasoline? What are we using to spark this stuff?
So for fire eating, you have to use white gas, naphtha. So it's just that like Coleman's camp fuel that you can get at Canadian Tire. But it's got a cleaner burn, and it changes states from a liquid to a vapor. So then you can manipulate the vapor as well. Whereas other fuels have different flashpoints and different like ways they change state and could be really potentially hazardous to your health. So
are accidents common?
Only if you're an idiot. No.
I feel like there's someone out there who's got a bad burn who's hating on you right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think knowing the science behind it and knowing the technique, like if you have no respect for what you're doing and you're out there with like a can of Axe and like a lighter, like, yeah, maybe you've got a bad burn. But for the most part, the people who are coming to like an art form like fire eating, wanting to do it correctly, yeah, maybe I don't have any hair on my arms for when I light my arms on fire, and I definitely don't need to wax anything on my face. But
oh man, it's a substitute for shaving your mustache. Not that you have one, but if you did,
exactly. Oh, no one would know.
Do you have to like mentally prepare, psych yourself up before you start eating? And walk me through the mechanics of the eating. Like, is it something you swallow? Is it a sword? Is it a stick? Like, what? Paint a picture for me.
So I've got a fire eating torch, which is Kevlar, and then a hollow tube. So the wick on the top is what you dip in the fuel, and then you light the torch. And essentially, flames always want to burn up, and they need oxygen to burn. So you kind of guide the torch onto your tongue as your head is tipped back, and then you guide it into your mouth and you deprive the flame of oxygen by closing it, and then kind of goes from there.
Does it burn your throat? Like, does it?
No, that's the thing. It like once the oxygen is gone, the flame's out. So, I would say the worst burn I've ever had in my mouth was from a hot piece of pizza.
Yeah, I'm impatient when it comes to eating. I get it.
Yeah. Sometimes when you practice a lot, you end up feeling like you ate like 7,000 Sour Patch Kids, but that's about the extent of like injuries I've had from fire eating.
And where do you perform? Are you doing bar mitzvahs, weddings, corporate events? Like what seances, satanic rituals? Can I book you for anything?
Absolutely. All of the above. Private parties, weddings. Yeah, probably a bar mitzvah or two, like municipal events, like parties, private parties, fun parties, things like that.
Do you ever get tired of people asking you about your job? I feel like it's like, whoa, I work at a bank. Oh, I'm a customer support for a department store. Oh, I'm a fire eater.
I feel like I kind of fly under the radar a little bit. Some performers look a little more like performery on a day-to-day basis. It's one of my favorite things kind of when, you've been chatting with someone for a while at a party, and inevitably, because we're in Toronto, the what do you do for a living comes up. And I'm like, oh, I'm a fire performer. They're like, huh?
It's funny. I'm very similar to you. I do the same thing. I don't say what I do, and then when someone asks me, I'm like, here's my moment to shine. I'll tell them I'm a radio personality. And then I tell them, and they're like, yeah, I don't care. But I guess with your job, you don't experience that.
Yeah, they get really confused. People are like, huh? Well, yeah, I eat it. Then I light myself on fire.
Does it have a specific taste when you snuff out the flame?
Yeah, it tastes like chicken.
Oh, delicious. So,
no.
Oh, does it?
No, it tastes like white gas.
Oh, like sort of like that smell you get at the gas pump, but in your mouth kind of thing?
Thankfully, not gasoline. It's a little more enjoyable because gasoline's incredibly volatile. But you taste like fuel. And then later, sometimes you have a little fuel burp.
Oh, boy. Well, Maggie Haze is a fire performer in Toronto, Canada. She works with the North Fire Circus, so you can find it at northfirecircus.com. Maggie, what a pleasure it was talking to you today. Thanks for sharing this job that I think a lot of people would have difficulty doing.
I'm happy to. Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up after the break, the psychology of wanting to leave things early. If you get that overwhelming social urge to just leave a party early and not stay till the bell rings, and why would a bell ring anyway? Stick around to find out why you might do it.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Broadcasting intimate confessions and useless obsessions. You're listening to The Last Show with David Cooper.
Some people stay till the end of the party, till the encore, till the curtain call. Others bounce early. They're home well before the end of the night. If you've ever thought, that was lovely, now how do I leave without saying goodbye? You might not be rude. You might just be efficient. So we're going to talk about experience efficiency, the science of wanting to leave early. I am here with author Jodi Wellman. Jodi, welcome.
Oh, I'm really excited to be here with you. And I promise I will stay to the end.
Yeah, you're not going to bounce? Thank you. Good night.
And we're done.
Before we start, I let my girlfriend know that I was talking to you about this, and she wanted me to ask you a question. She wants me to ask you, what is wrong with me? Because I am someone who always wants to bounce. I'm not one of these lingerers who's there till the end of the party.
Yeah.
I want to go halfway through at latest. Is there something wrong with me? Because she thinks there is.
Well, I'm sorry to burst her balloon about diagnosing you with a really pathological problem. I think you're normal, and it's not just because I'm like you. Many people are, and it can be explained by lots of branches of psychology, right? And so here's a question: do you find then? Are you negotiating with her before you go into any kind of social event? Like, okay, 45 minutes, we're going to look at each other. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, before we set the boundaries early. Otherwise, it's a public fight, which I don't mind doing. I think public fights are hilarious. They make everyone else uncomfortable. But, if it's something important to her, she says before we go, we're staying till the end of the wedding.
Oh.
If it's my friends and my thing, I let her know we're out of here in 45 minutes.
Right. Have you ever left without her?
Yes, often actually, because I don't drink anymore, which means when the night gets sloppy and ends up at a bar where there's dancing and drinking, she kind of does her thing. We just sort of make sure she gets home safe. Like, don't be so drunk that you think you can take the subway at 3 a.m. Alone, but yes, and we're actually really good with that. But again, we talk about it before. If I bounce early from something she wants me at, that's a problem.
Well, I think back to the question she had for you, which is really the question I had about myself and a lot of society, really, because I've had a lot of response from people saying, thank you, because I like to leave early too. And I just thought I was antisocial or introverted in the wrong ways, or just, attention deficit and I couldn't focus, had to leave. I am delighted that there is so much evidence about how it can justify. We may have a saturation point, which is just, I prefer to think that we're cognitively superior, but that's obviously just my editorializing. That, we get in, we glean what we need and want. Like, we've had sensory experience.
We said our hellos.
Right. And even beyond a social thing, like I look at it, because sometimes the social thing will limit us to thinking, I just really don't like a lot of people, which could also be true. But it's like going to a cultural event. Like, I think about going to, I don't know, I've been to an opera right now. I'm like, after 15 minutes, I feel like we're good here. Like, I got the opera experience. I feel like I felt the vibrate. Like, now can we call Uber? So I think that there's this cognitive saturation that can happen. It's based on, I'm not going to bore you with the science of it, but there is an explanation about how we can kind of come to a fill faster in our brains.
I grew up in Toronto. I'm Canadian. Everyone there is so polite. They stay till the end of everything. I now live in New York. New Yorkers, if they don't like something, like even if it's a theater ticket they paid a lot of money for, if they don't see the value of it, they will get up and go when they are ready. And I admire that greatly.
Okay.
Because the opera tickets are expensive, so you think you got to sit there. But if you got what you need, if you got the value you wanted, why not leave early?
Okay, you are touching on something else that's part of the research, David, which I love. That there is research where some of us have a different perception of time. Like, there's opportunity cost or there's sunk cost. Mm-hmm. You're like, I've spent all this money. I have to stay to the end of the hockey game. And like, I grew up in Canada too. So like, you got to stay to the end of the hockey game. Not necessarily. Some of us, like, okay, New Yorkers, like you're saying, or those of us who I say really are experienced minimalists, like we're just like, we know how to glean it and go. We're like, I was in maybe it's the first period or second quarter of whatever your sport or whatever before the intermission, we are able to say, I got the value out of it. I don't have to get all $236 worth of this ticket. Like, I got my $236 worth when I walked in the door and I sat in my seat and I got to see the kickoff or whatever it is, right?
New Yorkers will also complain loudly about a show at an intermission, which is hilarious to me. But you've touched upon the technical term, and let's define it, experience efficiency.
Yes.
I love this term.
Thanks.
It's a way to look at, you've been out.
Yeah.
You're being efficient about it. You've gotten what you need. It's time to go.
I really hope it catches on and normalizes us people. So we're efficiency, and we may not be efficient in other parts of our life, but that's fine. We will come and get the essence of what we looked for, or even maybe a bonus. And then we don't have to really stick with a full-time commitment, because as discussed, we've reached our saturation, or we are just about, I may have something else I want to get onto. So some of us are actually more interested in saying, I'm going to move on to the next bar or the next event, which, for me often, it's home on the couch.
Club bed.
Right now, so many people are nodding in loving agreement with you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like club couch. Okay. And we though are like, we don't need to maximize this experience. We can minimalize it and say, I still got what I came for. And there's this thing, can I just also throw in, there's a concept I really love in psychology called the peak end rule, where our memories are weird and warped. We will remember the experience of like, oh, let's just say that wedding or that special dinner or whatever it is by the peak emotional experience and the way it ends. And for those of us that don't want to drag it out and stay to the bitter end because we are maybe a bit bored, or we are just like, we got it. We are managing our memories in a way, in a really thoughtful way, to be like, if I leave on a high, which, for some of us is after 7 minutes, then that's going to be a good night. And I will always remember this as a good time. That's
interesting. So you leave on that high note, you get in, you have a good experience, you get out, you think it was a great event. But if you're the kind of person that if it kind of peters, if the last hour sucks, when you walk away, you're going to think that event sucked, even though the beginning was fun.
Exactly. You could have had an amazing time in the beginning that could have ostensibly been this like technically a great night. Oh, but if it does not end super duper, you're always going to associate those deadbeats with that bad night.
Is there a personality type or trait that makes someone more likely to leave the party early?
Yeah, there is this like the big 5 personality traits in psychology. One of them is openness to experience. And that is this, it's that some of us really value novelty. And I'm not just suggesting, again, that we're just like hopping from one thing to the next all day long on a Saturday, because like we can't stay at the farmer's market because now we got to move on to the magic show. That would be a very weird combo for a Saturday, but work with me here. I think there's this idea where some of us are just interested in novelty, and therefore we will tire sooner by this, like by the magic tricks, for example, by the first, little break. So there is that tendency for sure from a personality perspective. Do you find, are you like that? Like, are you kind of interested in new and moving on?
Yeah. I mean, I do radio. I talk to like 5-10 new people every day on my show. I have a fascination with like weird social interactions, but yeah, I get bored of them.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Like,
right, we're good here. Right, let's move on.
My show's a bit ADD. Like I got like 5 different guests. It's boom, I'm talking about something serious, something stupid, something serious, something scientific, something stupid. Yes, to answer your question, definitely yes. I got to ask this though. There must be some tipping point. There must be some diminishing return here where if you are too experience efficient, if you want to leave things too early all the time, your friends aren't going to like you anymore. Like there must be some tipping point where this behavior is negative.
Oh, you are totally on it. Like I think like anything, it's the dose that makes it poison. Like if you're always just dabbling, or you never stop and, ask, for example, you're there for a baby shower, but you don't even see the freaking baby, which actually would, again, make for a good baby shower for me. But like, that is not going to make for committed relationships. And I would actually question that and say, like, is there something else behind, your desire to like pollinate like a bee, move on? Maybe it is, there are some other issues you could, talk to a qualified therapist about. But I think for most of us, it's, what do I want to get out of this time? And if autonomy is important to me, like that's another trait. You seem to me like you might be the kind of guy that's like, I don't want to be told I have to stay till the end of the dinner. Like you want to call the shots, right?
I know what I got out of this time. A great interview. Jodi Wellman, you can find her at 4000mondays.com. Check out her book, You Only Die Once, How to Make It to the End with No Regrets. That's available wherever books are sold. Jodi, this was a great chat. Thanks for talking to me. We made it to the end.
Oh my God. And now we both get to bust.
After the break, it's everything pets. And why cats might make great emotional support animals, and why you shouldn't let your dog drink out of public bowls. Got a question about your pet? There's a good chance we'll answer it up next, but also maybe not.
Want to be part Part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It's pet talk like car talk, but with pets, and extremely helpful. We are joined by Dr. Cliff Redford to talk therapy animals that you might not expect, whether it's safe for your doggy to drink out of a bowl that other dogs drink out of. Cliff, welcome to the show.
Hey,
Great.
man, how you doing?
Good, great setup for you there, huh?
Happy election day. Do you vote? Like, you're a Canadian living in New York. Do you care?
I am one time I was still living in Canada and I walked out of voting, and a pollster or whatever, an exit. What do you even call these people who like try to predict the election as it's happening? He asked me how I voted, and I looked him right in the eye and I said, "Very well, thank you." And I kept walking.
With a pencil.
Yeah. I do vote, and I wanted to vote. And the last address that I had in Canada is in a riding that I think is a bit of a toss-up. And so I think my vote would have mattered.
But you didn't vote?
I wish I had. About 3 months ago or 2 months ago, I moved. So I emailed Elections Canada. I said, I'm a voter absentee voter, whatever you call them. And here's my new address. They sent me an email a couple weeks later saying, your move is confirmed. Then about a month ago, I get a letter from Elections Canada saying, hello, David, we will be sending a ballot to this address in case you didn't know that there was an election and you live under a rock. And I thought, great. You know what never came?
Oh, no.
My fucking ballot, Cliff. And I tried calling them like a week ago, and they put me on an everlasting hold. And I guess I'm a bad Canadian because after 30 minutes, I just hung up and I'm like, I'll call again tomorrow. I never did. I emailed them, didn't get anything back. I never got a ballot. I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of guy, but I'm starting to think, was it the United States Post Office interfering with the election? Was it the Canadian Post Office? Did they just not send one? Is this the one time I live in the U.S., so the one time in 10 where something gets lost in the mail? I don't know.
Maybe they assume they know how you're going to vote and they don't want you to vote that way.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not one to believe in conspiracies, but I wanted my ballot. I bet you my ballot's going to come tomorrow. I suppose I could hop on a plane with my passport and like documents that I used to live in that riding or something.
Just this is easy, man. When we're done here, you're going to tell me off air who you want to vote for. I'll put in a vote under your name. That's no problem. I know how to do that.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I know how to do that. I mean, we really just do it with check marks and pebbles and jelly beans in a jar over here up in Canuck land, right?
Am I a bad Canadian for not trying more? I just assumed it would come, and then, you know what? It didn't come for a friend of mine, too, who lives in the U.S., and I'm like, you know what? It'll come on Thursday, it'll come on Friday, and I'll spend the money to overnight it using a courier service. It never came. Did you vote today? Are you a big political guy?
That's a two-step question. Yes and no. I am voting. And I always vote. I take it very seriously, even when I've purposely spoiled my vote or voted for someone I know wasn't going to win just because I didn't want any of them to win, sort of thing.
Spite. That's a spite vote. I like it. It's the best reason to vote is spite.
I've done spite votes because I still want to vote. You know, I still want to give that effort, I guess, and pay respects to the people that have fought for this right. I am politically engaged enough to know why I'm voting for who I'm voting for, and I know the big ticket items regarding like platform issues. But I've bounced. I am not a card carrying anything. I have bounced from left to right over the last, or right to left over the last 30-ish years. It all depends on where the country is and who the people are and what their platform is.
It's just on the north part of North America. Like it's like Mexico, United States, and then Canada. That's where it is. Like if you look at a map and you look at North America, start at South America if you know where like maybe Brazil is, and just keep going up. Up is north.
Right.
Yeah.
Alaska. No, that's Alaska.
No,
then.
yeah, that's to the left. That's west. Don't go there. Just sort of like
Okay.
to the right. It's sort of sandwiched in there between the U.S., the continent. What do they call it? The continental U.S. and then the Alaska.
It's in between the U.S. Alaska and U.S. Greenland.
That's where that's where the country is. Oh goodness.
Where is it compared to the Gulf of America?
What is Canada? I think Canada is still officially calling it the Gulf of Mexico.
I have no idea.
I hope they
I
are.
think. I mean, who is actually allowed to name? Like, how did it get that name? The Gulf of Mexico.
I think every country is allowed to call whatever they want. It was.
Well, it's like
yeah.
It's like us English-speaking people calling Greeks and calling that country Greece.
Yeah.
It's not actually called Greece. It's called Hellas or Hellas, depending, right? Like,
or Germany or Deutschland, like, or German and Deutsch. You know, it's a bit odd. I got to say. But back to voting. Yeah, I was really politically active when I lived in Canada. I was an election scrutineer. You know what that is?
I do know, yes.
That's someone who hangs around. Well, I'm going to tell you anyway.
You hang around afterwards and ask people how they vote.
No. That's someone who hangs out during the counting and looks at the election officials counting and like objects to ballots and makes sure that it's counted correctly. Sort of an observer. And I think, goodness, it was like.
But you do it for a party, right?
Yeah. At that time, I did it for a party. And I remember it was around the time, like, Obama was either just elected or not elected. And somebody crossed out the Canadian candidates and put, like, John McCain, Barack Obama. And then they voted for Barack Obama. And I thought this was so funny. I stopped the whole election count to show everybody. And everybody in the polling, whatever, the school where we were counting, everyone laughed. And then the person in charge said, "That's strike one, strike two, you're out. Do not interrupt the electoral count." And she screamed at me. It was fun.
Well, you were encouraging people to spoil their vote.
They had already voted, Cliff.
No, but by showing it to everybody else.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyways, it's still funny though, and we appreciate it. I think that person who scolded you wasn't a true Canadian.
No, I just liked that you know what, in Australia, they make you show up. It's like a crime not to show up to the polling booth.
Yeah, and there's always been talks about that, I think, in a lot of different countries, both US and Canada, because voter turnout's always so poor in North America.
It's like a traffic ticket, though. It's an infraction. It's not like they're not going to arrest you. They'll just mail you a fine.
But should there be some sort of penalty for not voting and or encouragement to vote? A savings on your taxes or...
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in Australia, they show up to the polling booth and they just submit a blank or spoiled ballot, and that's fine. That's not illegal. So a lot of people in Australia, quote unquote, do not vote, but they're making the choice by showing up and saying, "I do not wish to cast a vote for a candidate," rather than not showing up at all.
Yeah, they're not making the choice to show up because they're kind of being forced.
Yes,
loosely.
Correct.
Yeah.
I suppose you could apply for an absent ballot. I don't actually know. I'm not Australian, but I suppose you could, what do they call it? Vote by mail ballot, and then just submit a blank one, and then you wouldn't get the ticket. But I don't. Maybe they're not forcing you to show up. I don't. I'm not Australian. I'm an idiot, is what I am.
Okay, but then that still begs the question: should countries like the U.S. and Canada either penalize people for not voting or rewarding them for voting to try and get the numbers up? Or does that just create voters who are, apathetic?
I like the idea of like a tax refund. Like, even if you owe, we'll still mail you a check for $50. Even if you owed $10,000 in tax, just the kind of mental like, oh, I'm still getting a check for, you'll owe $9,950.
Nice.
If you owe 10 grand.
It's good math.
And thank you. And they'll mail you the check. So you just get this check. Even if you paid the government like $1 billion, you still get the $50 refund in paper if you voted. I like that idea.
The problem is to send out a $50 check to every person is going to end up costing about $150 per check just to do the paperwork.
Yeah, it's like every penny costs, like in the US, costs like, $100 to make. I mean, I made that number up, but a penny costs more to make than it's worth. We're here with Dr. Cliff Redford, which I guess it's election talk. Let's come back with Cliff and discuss whether cats make good therapy animals. We'll be back.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
It is Pet Talk with Dr. Cliff Redford. We are actually going to get to the pet-related content. Cats. I think my cat makes me a happier person. I laugh every day when I'm with my cat. No matter what, no matter how miserable my day was, Cliff, my cat makes me laugh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for being here. That was a great interview. I know there are therapy animals, dogs, bunnies, things like that. Mostly dogs.
I guess there's difference between personal support animals, which is what it sounds like Tomato is for you, and a therapy animal like that bunny rabbit or a therapy dog or a therapy cat. A therapy animal, which is recognized, and there's different organizations here in Canada. It's usually St. John's ambulance that sort of does the testing. These are animals that go into long-term care facilities, hospitals, maybe daycares or care facilities for people with special needs. Even prisons have these therapy animals, and they are tested for their demeanor. They're selected based not only on size, but sort of the way they interact with people that might be stressed. And so these are animals that have a golden ticket or a golden seal of approval that they can go into these places and help reduce stress and reduce anxiety and improve sociability and just improve sort of a sense of community. And this very sweet article talked about whether or not cats make good therapy pets. I am biased because not only do I say yes, they do make good therapy pets, but I've actually treated or been the veterinarian to cats that lived at a chronic care facility, an old folks home essentially, here in Toronto. And it was an interesting dynamic because normally you bring me Tomato and I check Tomato out and I talk about vaccines and we talk about the teeth and we talk about weight and, maybe Tomato's put on weight. And the issue I had with a couple of these cats is they were all obese. And the reality is the woman's name was Erin, who worked for the care facility and brought me these cats. These cats live at the care facility and they go from floor to floor to floor, going into the rooms of the people who live there, and they each have like 20 different names. Be like, "Hi, Tomato," and then they go into the next room, "Hi, Cucumber," and then they go into the next room, "Hi, Kitty." And Erin explained to me, yes, it would be nice if Tomato could lose weight, let's say, but Tomato has a job, and the job is to go from room to room and make these elderly people feel more happy, feel more alive, interact with them. And some of them are so happy just to give a treat to this kitty cat that we have to accept this as being the situation. So that's sort of what this article made me think of. And yes, cats do make good therapy pets. The nice thing about it that I didn't actually think about, which I should have, is in some cases, cats make better therapy pets than dogs because there is inherently a higher risk of being afraid of dogs, even smaller dogs.
Yeah, I'm scared of dogs, Cliff. Did you know that about me?
I did not know that about you.
It's diminished greatly, but there's a lot of like pit bulls and Dobermans and scary fighting dogs in New York and people with unleashed. When I see an unleashed pit bull, I tense up. Like I will cross the street to avoid it.
Yeah, and the reality is if you saw an unleashed 70-pound cat, you would also tense up and go, "What the hell's going on?"
Yes,
right?
That would be a panther or a cougar or a leopard.
That is true. But the reality is it's that lizard brain of ours. We see animals that may or may not be threats, And if they have the potential, then you know, they make us nervous. So in some situations, cats are better therapy animals. And it was always great working with these cats at the I think it was called Mark Haven Long-Term Care Facility. One very funny story is some of the people living there had a habit of wandering and trying to escape. And so they would have these little bracelets, and they couldn't take the bracelets off, and the bracelets wouldn't let them open the door. The door was like automatic. And they learned, some of these residents learned that if they followed the cat could actually go outside because there was a garden. They could follow the cat, and the door wouldn't be able to figure out that, hey, one person is leaving that's allowed, and then the other one is leaving that isn't. They ended up having to put the cat on a schedule that it had to wear a collar that didn't allow the door to open. So the cat started to learn, oh, I can only go out between the hours of 9 and 11. And that's when Mrs. Jones, who always sneaks out when I'm trying to get outside, that's when Mrs. Jones is playing euchre or something like that. So they actually use the cats to help them escape.
I know I started by saying my cat makes me happy every day, but I feel like this link of pets being soothing for our soul, who aren't trained, who don't go to care facilities, who don't go to hospitals, who don't help people with diagnosed psychiatric illnesses, who just help regular people and they own them. I feel like that link is there. You know, maybe for you it's not, but
what do you mean for me it's not? That, of course.
I don't know, because I started talking about how my cat makes me happier, makes me laugh, and you're like, well, this is certified therapy animals. I'm like, they're not so different.
Well, but that's what we were originally talking about, David, is we were originally talking about therapy animals, and I needed to,
fine,
so I could get to this
all
article, right. I needed to explain it. But absolutely, animals reduce our blood pressure, reduce our resting heart rates, reduce our cortisol levels. People with pets, and let's say elderly people with pets living at home, live longer because they get out and they walk and they have a purpose and they're feeding their pet. So animals, they should be able to vote. Animals should be able to vote.
They wouldn't get sent their absentee ballots, Cliff, so that's a problem.
I guess. I don't know.
Tell me why, if I have a dog and I don't, I'm going for a walk and I go to a coffee shop or a little bakery or whatever, and there's this water bowl outside. Should I let my dog drink from it?
If you're asking me, I would say yes.
Oh.
If you're asking the writer of this article that you segued to, they would say no, because they would talk about how the water is sitting there potentially for too long, and the other dog may not be vaccinated, and your dog could get E. coli or salmonella.
Who's Sam and who's Ella?
Who's Sam and who's Ella? I don't know. I haven't met them yet. The reality is dogs lick each other's and often they lick their own. And I don't want my dog to live in a bubble. If I'm going for a long walk and he wants to drink out of that dish, I'm going to let him do it. I caught Bo, our rescue dog, who's 5 months old today, drinking out of the toilet yesterday.
Delicious. The toilet's cleaner than the kitchen sink, Cliff.
It probably is. And I mean, toilet water in North America is cleaner than most water all around the world.
Think about it. Like, okay, I got a pack of chicken and it's got that, you know, they always pack chicken with like a little bit of fluid because they're selling it overweight, or they like pump water in. Like, it's the water weight in meat. I take that pack with the raw chicken and I drain the water in the pack down my kitchen sink. Okay. Now there's chicken water, raw chicken water splattered over my sink. If the pet licks out of the sink versus the toilet bowl's clean.
Relatively. Yeah. It's cleaner, or it's less dirty. I would say that is true. So I would rather my dog be happy and not be that weird dog that gets colds all the time and has a note from his doctor when he doesn't have to, compete in sports. I want a real dog who can handle a little bit of bacteria.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Check out Cliff's podcast, Vet Talk with Dr. Cliff. Dr. Cliff Redford is a veterinarian from the Toronto area in Canada. You can respond to that if you want.
Well, if I'm going to respond, it's actually called Vet Life with Dr. Cliff.
What did I call it? Pet Life?
Vet Talk.
Oh,
Vet Talk is what we're talking about. Vet Talk is your podcast, is my section on your podcast, David.
It's a radio show, but also a podcast.
Also a podcast. I get mixed up.
It's all right. We're all mixed up. That's the show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you tomorrow night. I am David Cooper. This is the last show But it won't be the last time I'm here. But it will be the time that I'm here on the last show. It's confusing. We'll catch you soon.